What if you're not late at all, but simply listening to the wrong clock? We're told there's a timeline. Graduate at 22, be successful by 30, start a family, buy the house, climb the ladder. And if you don't follow that path, if you fall behind, society starts whispering, you're late, you're lost, you failed. But what if Carl Jung was right? What if the true self doesn't care about your career, your age, or your status? What if your soul has its own calendar, one that doesn't tick with society's rhythm, but with the invisible tempo of your becoming? In the Red Book, Carl Jung doesn't offer 5 steps to success. He offers something far more dangerous, a journey inward, a confrontation with the real you, not the mask, the ego, or the LinkedIn version of yourself, but the self that's been waiting for you to wake up. He who goes to himself risks a confrontation with himself, wrote Carl Jung. So maybe the pain you feel right now, that subtle ache, that fear that you're behind everyone else, that's not failure. It's the very first whisper of your real life calling you in. Have you ever felt like time is running out? Even though you don't know what you're waiting for? Drop a comment and let's see how many of us feel this. Today, we're going to explore a truth you won't hear on self-help podcasts or morning routines. A truth Jung buried in his mystical writings, that the soul doesn't follow clocks. It follows courage. So the question is not, why are you late? The question is, what are you still waiting for? Let's go in. What if being late is a trap? From the moment we enter school, we're fed a script. You're told there's a golden window. Success before 30. Clarity by 25. Stability by 35. As if your soul were a train, expected to arrive at every station exactly on time, or be judged as broken. But Carl Jung saw something different. He believed that the soul unfolds not linearly, but symbolically, not by age, but by awareness. In the Red Book, he writes, time is a child, playing like a child, playing a board game. Carl Jung, the Red Book, page 314. It's a stunning metaphor. Time is not a dictator. It's a child, playful, unpredictable, innocent. And yet, we shame ourselves for not achieving what others have, forgetting that our timelines were never meant to match. Here's the truth. You were never supposed to be on time. You were supposed to be awake. And the awakening often happens later than we think, because ego development dominates the first half of life. It's only after 35 or 40 that many experience what Jung called the second birth, the moment the self begins to stir. The second half of life is not a repetition of the first. It is a time for the inner journey. So if you're 28 and lost, 38 and scared, 52 and starting over, you are not late. You are right on time for you. Let me ask you something. Who defined your milestones? Was it you or someone else's fear projected onto your path? When you stop measuring your life with someone else's ruler, something radical happens. You begin to trust the rhythm within. You begin to realize maybe this moment, this feeling of being behind, is a signal that you're finally stepping off the conveyor belt and onto your real path. Because it's not about when you bloom. It's about whether you dare to bloom at all. If you feel late in life, let me ask you a dangerous question. What exactly are you waiting for? Is it a sign? A permission slip from the universe? Someone to say, now it's safe, now you can begin. Carl Jung would say, you're not really waiting for a moment. You're waiting for the courage to face the part of you that's been asleep. Jung reveals, you are afraid of the slow current of life and its meanders. You're used to a well-ordered course. And that's the truth for many of us. We say we're waiting for clarity or motivation or a better time, but often we're just afraid of the meandering current, of stepping off the map trail into the wild unknown of the self. We've been taught to fear what's not linear, what's not productive, what's not approved. But life doesn't wait for us to be ready. The soul doesn't offer guarantees. And the tragedy? Some people will wait their entire lives, standing at the threshold of transformation, but never walk through the door. Pause for a second. What have you been postponing for years? Comment below, even if it's hard. Sometimes writing it down is the first act of rebellion, because behind every "I'm just not ready yet," there's often a deeper truth. I'm afraid of what will happen if I stop hiding. What if the door was always open, but you kept waiting for someone else to walk through it first? This is a call to wake up, not a call to hustle harder. The soul doesn't work on deadlines, but it does get tired of being ignored. So maybe the question isn't, what are you waiting for? Maybe the question is, what part of yourself are you still afraid to meet? There's a clock inside you, but it doesn't tick like the one on your wall. It doesn't care about birthdays, promotions, or social timelines. The clock of individuation is the internal rhythm that guides the soul to become what it truly is. In a world obsessed with schedules and deadlines, individuation is radical. It's not about progress. It's about alignment. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Individuation isn't something that happens because you try hard. It happens when the ego breaks down, when your carefully constructed identity begins to fall apart, and something deeper rises in its place. That process rarely begins in your 20s, sometimes not even in your 30s. It comes after failure, loss, confusion, when the outer world no longer gives you meaning. My soul, where are you? Do you hear me? I speak, I call you. This was not the voice of a man who had it all figured out, but the voice of a man finally listening to what he had ignored. And maybe that's where you are now. You've tried the outer path, followed the rules, but something still aches. That's the clock striking midnight. The beginning of the real story, not failure. Can you feel it ticking? That subtle sense that there's something more? Drop a sign in the comments if you feel like this message is waking something inside you. Remember that our individuation clock doesn't care how old you are. It only asks, are you ready to remember who you really are? And once that question is asked, you can't unhear it. You can't go back to sleep. Because now, the soul has entered the room. We're told that life is a ladder. You climb it rung by rung. Get the degree, land the job, find the one, buy the house, retire. But what if this ladder leads you somewhere that was never meant for you? Carl Jung saw it clearly. Many people live out other people's scripts. They chase achievements not because they're called, but because they were conditioned. We all walk in shoes too small for us. It's a haunting image. Living a life that fits the world's expectations but suffocates your soul. Jung describes this moment of collapse, when an ego-driven life can no longer sustain the weight of the unconscious. That's when the real voice begins to rise. The spirit of the depths took my understanding and all my knowledge and placed them at the service of the inexplicable and the paradoxical. In other words, the soul doesn't care about your resume. It cares about your real calling. And that calling often begins after your carefully crafted life falls apart. Consider this. Some of the most powerful transformations begin with failure, or with boredom, or with an unshakable feeling that this isn't it. Jung didn't start his great inner work until his late 30s. Others bloom in their 50s. Some begin only after retirement, because the soul has its own reasons, and it does not rush. Have you ever accomplished something and felt empty afterward? That might have been a false milestone. The true callings don't usually come with applause. They come as whispers, as dreams, or breakdowns that turn out to be breakthroughs. So maybe you're not behind. Maybe you've just been walking the wrong path. You are not too late. Let those words sink in. Because maybe you've carried that belief like a shadow, convincing yourself that the best years are gone, that the ship has sailed, that you missed your chance. But here's the secret. The soul doesn't operate on the clock of the world. It waits and waits and waits until you are quiet enough, broken enough, humble enough to finally listen. My soul, where are you? Do you hear me? Said Jung. These were the words of a man who had accomplished everything, but found himself empty, because until you meet the self, everything feels like waiting. Here's the truth, he whispered in the Red Book. It's never too late to begin again, but it is time to stop postponing the truth, because waiting isn't always passive. Sometimes it's procrastination dressed up as patience. Sometimes it's fear calling itself wisdom. It's the ego's last attempt to stay in control. And the longer you wait, the heavier it gets. the sense that something's missing, that you're missing. What if you stopped waiting today? What's one thing your soul has been asking for that you've been avoiding? Write it, name it. That's where your path begins. Because when you answer the call, not the world's, but yours, something miraculous happens. The doors you thought were locked go open. The time you thought you lost returns. And the parts of you that felt dead come alive again. No, it's not too late, but it is time. And this moment right here might be the beginning of everything. If you've been told you're behind, you missed something, your moment has passed. Today you've heard a different story, a deeper one, not with bullet points, not with answers, but with visions, dreams, and the raw honesty of man confronting his soul. You are on your own timeline, measured not by clocks, but by courage. You are not behind. The way is not upward, but inward. Your path was never supposed to look like theirs. Your milestones were never supposed to match the world's calendar. Your life is not a race. It's a revelation, unfolding moment by moment as you remember who you really are. And yes, it's terrifying to walk away from the script, to stop waiting, to trust that the soul knows what it's doing. But as Jung reminds us, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. So look within. That's where your real life has always been waiting. Not behind you, not in some missed opportunity, but here, now, on the edge of this very breath. If something in this video spoke to you, what chapter of your soul are you finally ready to begin? Let this be your first act of awakening. And if this message felt like a mirror to your inner voice, consider subscribing. For more content, for more reminders that your life is not late, it's beginning. Because the soul never runs out of time. Only the ego does. And maybe you weren't waiting for a sign. You were waiting for this.